Hello, everyone. This is Joy KahNah. I'm coming to you from the 22nd of January in 2020, and it has come to my attention this morning that it's time for me to speak once again on the topic of YODs and the YOD formation in the astrological chart. And you guys, I just feel like I have said so much on this topic, and yet I look at my playlist on YODs and I see that there's hardly anything there. And I realize that perhaps there's more to say. And in this audio today, I just want your permission here, if you're a YOD-Bearer or you know someone who is, just to speak freely about the YOD. I just want this video to be an opportunity to be able to share with all of you some of my understandings, thoughts, experiences as a YOD-Bearer, and my hope is that this will touch those and reach those people who are walking the path of the YOD and experiencing this phenomenon, and that you all will receive the messages here that you need today. And I just want to say that I am very passionate about the topic of YODs because of everything in my astrology and really in my life. I would say it is perhaps my own YODs that have impacted me the most or grown me the most as an individual, as a soul. And yet I feel a little bit of guilt every time that I make any content on the YOD formation, because I do respect my subscribership, and I know, I know that so many of my subscribers do not have a YOD or do not really care about this topic of the YOD. And so every time that I speak on it, I feel like I'm excluding all those people. And yet I'm also aware that out there, across the planet are so many people that do have YODs, and there's very little information out there for people that have the YOD formation. And of the information that is out there, a lot of it is produced by perhaps very well-intended astrologers, etc., but by astrologers that do not have personal experience with the YOD formation and probably are not really aware of how profound of a felt experience it is to be living within the formation of the YOD. Okay, so anyway, if you are interested in a video explaining the technological aspects of the YOD formation, or, an organized list of tips and tricks or other things, I've already made those videos, and you can find them on my YOD playlist. This is not that. This video here today, this is right now, from this current moment, this is more of my sort of tell-all about, how I really feel as a YOD-Bearer about the YOD formation right now and the current strategies that I'm using to navigate my own experience with my YODs. And yes, that's what we're going to be doing today. And it should be probably no surprise, just based on the frequency alone of this, and those of you will know what I'm talking about if you have a YOD, that right now I am in a YOD activation. I have 2 YODs, just for a little bit of background about me. I have a Pluto YOD. Pluto in Scorpio in the 3rd house is the apex of that YOD. And I also have a Mars YOD. Mars in Gemini in the 10th house. Both of my YODs relate to, well, they're both very communication oriented, and they relate to sharing information, speaking publicly, etc. So anyway, that's a little bit about my YODs. And the reason that I'm doing this today, in part, is because over the past couple of weeks, I've been almost flooded with emails from people who are YOD-Bearers themselves, who are just in a state of total desperation, seeking any sort of clarity about their paths forward. And it's actually gotten to the point for me personally that I really cannot actually keep up with all of the emails that I'm getting. I don't actually have the ability the energy and time to be able to respond to all of them because of my own activations with my own YODs right now and everything. So I thought, let me just speak about YODs, and somehow, hopefully, this will help people. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is my own realization recently about what is actually going on when we experience YOD activations. So for all of us who have YODs, essentially any time, if you know the apex of your YOD, which is the top point on the triangle, you should know that. If you don't know, then just pause and try to figure that out. Any time that any planet is about at that degree, you'll experience an activation of your YOD. And so the most common activations of the YOD that you'll experience of your YOD will be via the moon in most cases, because the moon is sort of the quickest moving astral body. And so in the space of a day, the moon can move like 10 degrees through a sign or so. So in the space of a moon cycle, you'll experience several activations of your YOD that just last like a couple of hours, for example. So I don't know if this is making sense to you guys, but for me, for example, so we'll take the example of my Pluto YOD. Most astrologers agree that the strongest YOD formation that a person can have is the Pluto YOD, with Pluto at the apex. Some astrologers say that's the only true YOD. In my experience, being someone who also has a Mars YOD, I can say the Pluto YOD is not the only true YOD. Any YOD formation is significant. However, the Pluto YOD is the most dominant. So for me, if there's any sort of battle, my YODs are actually interlocking, my Mars YOD and Pluto YOD. But if there's any sort of battle, and the question is who's going to win out or which planetary energy is going to win out, there is no doubt whatsoever that it will be Pluto. The YOD phenomenon is fundamentally a Pluto phenomenon. But anyway, so the most common transits of your YOD that you're going to experience are via the moon. So, for example, for me, my Pluto YOD is at 14 degrees of Scorpio. So any time that you have a sign, a planet, anything transiting the opposite point of your apex, that's always going to be the strongest YOD activation. So for me, that's going to be any planet that is at 14 degrees of Taurus, because that's the opposite to Scorpio. If you are a YOD-Bearer, it really is useful to study enough about astrology to be able to determine when your YOD is active, so you don't go nuts, or think that you're constantly, in a crisis when it's really just a YOD activation. Not to say it doesn't feel like a crisis a lot of the time when you are in that. But anyway, so, on a monthly basis, the moon is always going to transit that point of 14 degrees of Taurus, for example, or on a very regular basis. And then also, anytime the moon is at 14 degrees of any other sign, because my YOD is formed around 13.5 to 14 degrees, all these different planets, actually 9 out of the 12 planets in my chart. So anyway, so basically, if the moon is at 14 degrees of Scorpio, that activates my YOD. If it's at 14 degrees of Capricorn, that activates my YOD. If it's at 14 degrees of Taurus, that's the strongest activation. For my Mars YOD is at 14 degrees of Gemini. So anytime a planet is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, the opposite of Gemini, that's what they call the Boomerang point, and that's the strongest activation of the YOD, so they say. And sort of the planet transiting the point or degree of your YOD kind of determines the flavor of the internal energies that you're going to experience at that time. I used to think, when I first learned about YODs, it's kind of exciting when you first learn that you have a YOD, because it's like, oh my gosh, I was chosen for some sort of special purpose or something like that on the planet, and it kind of gives you this feeling where it's like, oh, my life is starting to make sense. Because when you have a YOD, it kind of gives me chills to say this, but it really is true. I mean, you do know that you are born for something more. And it's this felt experience that can't really be put into words. And most YOD-Bearers would never say it aloud. You know, I feel inappropriate even saying this right now, but I know that I have to. It's part of my YOD, like, to do this. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. So for me, like, from the time that I was an infant, like, literally in my crib, I knew that something was happening in my life. That there was some sort of special significance to what I was experiencing. And that the other little kids were not experiencing this. It's just this felt feeling, like, of knowing, and it's not a feeling of, at least in my experience, it's not really a feeling of being special. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily like a feeling of like, oh, I'm more talented or I'm more special than other people. It's not like that. I'm trying to, like, it's more like a feeling of being randomly chosen to play out a special purpose. And it doesn't feel like, you guys, if only you could see my face right now, I'm just, like, shaking my head in just utter, I don't even know how to describe it, but, like, oh my gosh. It's like this feeling that, like, you were chosen from some external source to fulfill a certain purpose, and it wasn't a free will choice. And I mean, it's not a free will choice in the way that we understand free will at this time. That's my sense. Okay. So when you first discover your YOD, it's like, oh, everything starts to make sense. And it can really, like, produce an excitement, depending on just your own personal makeup. Like, okay, great, like, finally my life's starting to make sense. I know why I faced all these trials, these tribulations, these twists of fate. It's because of my special purpose. And it can create then, and I would say when I first discovered that I had a YODs, the first time astrologers told me I had YODs, I want to say it was like either the end of 2015 or 2016. So it's been almost like 4 years now. And at first I didn't understand it. I was like, what are you talking about? This makes, like, no sense. I kind of don't care. And then I kind of Googled it, and, like, there was a lot of mixed messages. Some people were saying the YOD doesn't even matter. God bless. Please, any astrologer that's listening to this, please, if you do not have a YOD yourself, don't speak about YODs. Because it does so much damage when astrologers say, because if you're a YOD person, you're feeling on a regular basis, you know, maybe 10 times a month, like you're in this huge moment of, like, absolute crisis and utter inner turmoil. And then you Google, like, what does it mean to have a YOD? And, you know, the first thing you read is like, oh, this is a rather insignificant karmic pattern. And then you feel like you're an absolute failure. like that is what happens. And so we need to remove the messages that say that the YOD configuration is not important. Anyway, but the thing is that when you hear that it is important, and it is important. I feel that the YOD pattern, or that it has significance for the individual soul. So in other words, like, you are breaking through a pattern, an energetic pattern for your actual soul. Okay? And that's significant in its own right. However, that's not all. So, like, for me, for example, so who knows, like, where my life is going to lead, you guys. It'll be really exciting to see, okay? Like, in regards to my Pluto YOD, right? So, but, like, Pluto in the third house, right? It's, like, transformative rebirths and powerful communications, through, like, new understandings, you know, information, wisdom, etc., being a transformative process. Both, like, the internal, because this is very much in depth, but as I said, I'm just speaking freely here in this audio. So my Pluto in Scorpio YOD, it is Pluto retrograde. So it first becomes this internal experience where I will come across some sort of information, and it will radically transform my inner worlds. And then eventually it becomes an external communication. And yeah, like, for example, this that you're listening to right now. It actually was 2 nights ago. I was dreaming, And you guys, I almost always remember like anywhere from 4 to 5 dreams every night. And I was dreaming, and in my dream I was teaching courses on YODs. And yeah, so 2 nights ago, and it was so wonderful. It's better than I would be able to actually do it, in this moment. But anyway, in the dream I was lecturing on YODs, and so that was my internal experience, and now I'm making this audio. But anyway, so the YOD formation, it has a significance for the soul. So perhaps for me as a soul, perhaps I had in prior incarnations powerful understandings or came across some very useful or transformative information, and perhaps for whatever reason I did not communicate that information because perhaps I was threatened, perhaps I was afraid, perhaps I just had a very blocked throat chakra. I used to have that when I was young, so I can almost guarantee you I did. I actually, believe it or not, all this talking I do now, I actually didn't speak at all, like at all until age 3, and then I didn't speak at all in school until about age 14. I guess around age 9 I started to speak. But some of you may wonder, Maya, why do you speak so loudly, and why do you speak so passionately? And actually, I'll tell you a little story about how that happened. I was so soft-spoken and afraid to speak when I was young. I always had a powerful inner world, and of course I still do. And I was always incredibly philosophical and reflective, immensely so. I mean, I felt at least 60, 70 inside, even as a toddler. And I would sit and I would listen. I would seek out opportunities to be around much older people. Like, I would ask them to take me to their meetings and stuff like that. My dad was part of the city council and the school board, and my mom was a nurse and worked in the hospital, and I would try to be really well behaved so that they would take me to their meetings and stuff like that, so I could listen to what people were talking about, because my brain just needed to know things and needed these understandings. But then I would never speak about them. Anyway, so speaking of YOD moments of destiny, when I was in kindergarten one day, we were doing some exercise where we had to just count, It was really scary, actually. I don't know if you guys felt that way when you were young, but when you're getting tested, I think as a psychic or someone who had psychic intel, I always kind of knew. I was never fooled by what was really going on. So this person comes in the classroom and is like, okay, just count as much as you can. So I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13, and I knew that I skipped 12, and I just felt this horror overtake me, because I had this feeling that I was in a moment of destiny. Maybe you guys can relate if you're a YOD-Bearer. It's really hard to put into words, but it's how in movies, right? There's certain music, as the main character or any character walks into a scene where something important is about to happen. It's almost you feel that music within yourself, and it's So anyway, so I counted, and then the person went away, and I saw them filling out some paperwork, and then they came back a while later, I think the same day in the afternoon, and they took my hand and led me down this. There's a woman, and she led me down all these hallways, and I was so scared. It's oh my God, where am I going? And I ended up in this room, and I didn't know what was going on. I mean, they didn't really tell me, but they were just kind of well, just answer these questions as best as you can. And they started asking me to, I don't remember all of it, but I remember certain things. They were asking story problems and stuff. I'm trying to provide an example. The only ones that I remember really specifically is that they would state series of letters and numbers, A 1 2 B F 3 9, and then they would ask me first to repeat them, and then they would ask me to state them backwards and stuff like that. And so I'm 5. Like, I have no idea what is, I know something important's going on, but I didn't know if it's like a punishment. I didn't know if, I wondered, like, are they trying to figure out if I'm, like, slow? Are they trying to figure out if I'm, like, because I knew that there was, like, special education and stuff like that, and I thought that the person I had seen, like, was affiliated with that somehow. And so I was like, oh no, they're going to figure out I'm dumb or something like that. And that sort of insecurity, I think, is a real, like, typification of the YOD experience. Because when you're a YOD-Bearer, you feel, like, at least I do, but I really feel like other people will relate. There is, at one level, this sense that you can achieve almost anything. Like, you know, like, it's not really you. Like, it's sort of somehow universal energy or something, like, working towards you. But you have this amazing potential, and then at the same time, you feel this tremendous insecurity and inadequacy. And so I was feeling both of these. I'm 5. So anyway, so what happened was, like the entire day, I was doing this test, and it was, like, all verbal because I'm 5, you know, and so I'm just learning to read and stuff, and so I can't really, like, do a written test. And at the end of it, the person goes away, and then they come back, and basically, I don't know, but a couple of weeks later, I'm put in this gifted and talented program, and this is how we're going to relate it back to the Pluto YOD. So I'm in this gifted and talented program, and first thing that we have to do is write a paper on any topic of our choosing. And yeah, so we had to, like, research them at the library and stuff like that. It was, like, towards the end of kindergarten. And so I picked cats because, like, we just got a cat, like, and so I picked cats. And so I wrote this, like, 1-page report about cats. And I was nervous because that was my first time writing a report. But I thought it was okay. You know, my mom helped me and everything, and I brought the report, and we typed it at home. We had a computer. We had one of those big old, like, Macs. And I was scared because I didn't know if I was smart enough. Like, you guys, oh my gosh, Pluto in the 3rd. I didn't know. I looked at the other kids that were there, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are, like, all the smart kids. Oh my gosh, like, I don't think I belong. I don't think I belong. But I was like, okay, it's okay. Like, you wrote your report on cats, just give it to the teacher. And the teacher was so amazing. Her name was Marilyn, and now she's on the other side. But gosh, do I love her so much. Really special lady. Anyway, so I tried to give it to her, and she was like, oh no, honey, like, no, like, we don't just collect our reports here in this class, because I'm brand new to this. Some of the other kids were, like, chosen from the very beginning, like, they had always been in the program. And she's like, no, here we present our reports. And yeah, she's like, later on, you know, what we'll do is we'll teach. Eventually, you'll teach the whole class about whatever you choose when you get a little bit older. But right now, we just read the reports out loud. So all you need to do is just read the report out loud. And I was like, I don't know how I appeared on the outside, but I was, like, completely terrified. Like, I was frozen. Like, I was trying to think, like, is there any way that I can somehow get out of this situation? Like, maybe if I were just to run out the door or something like that, like, maybe if I just somehow, like, could just get away, and then you have that knowingness, like, no matter what the apex is of your YOD, whatever house it falls in, and dear God, if somehow your YOD doesn't make sense to you, please generate your chart in the whole sign house system and see where the apex falls, okay? That's an aside, but anyway. Because I used to think, like, in the Placidus system, my Pluto YOD falls in the 2nd house. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Okay, anyway, just my personal opinion, but that's what this audio is about. Anyway, so I get up there, and there's, like, a little podium, like a child-sized podium. God bless. And I was like, hello, cats are an animal that are in the species of, and, like, it, you know, my report was like 5 sentences. It was like 1 page, double spaced, because I'm 5. And this magical woman, Marilyn. I feel that she herself was probably a Gemini. I'm sure she was. So somehow, I think her presence was activating my Mars, a Gemini yod. So anyway, so I just feel that. I just don't know why, but I just feel it really strongly. I'm almost certain her birthday was like June 12th or 13th. And anyway, she's like, honey, you need to start over. We can't hear you. And so I was like, the cats are an animal. And like, she was like, no. No, no, she was just like, no, I am going to teach you how to speak, like, right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's like I'm just starting here in this, like, special program, and, like, I am not cut out for this. And she's like, don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to speak, like, it's very easy, just speak as loudly as you can so everyone in the room can hear you. And she did like an example, and she's like, just speak loud and with as much confidence as you could muster. And she was like, here, I'll read it first to give you an example. And she's like, cats are an animal, that, like, and she was just like so animated, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And I just wanted to I don't even know, like, if I had a choice, like, I wouldn't have even been in school at all. I would have just been at home teaching myself. I was very painfully shy and afraid to talk, okay? Anyway, so, you know what, but when you're in a moment of YOD destiny, you just do whatever is in front of you. There's somehow, like, your being just knows you have to rise to the occasion. So I did it. It'd be interesting to watch, like, a video of that now and see how it actually was. But to me, I just felt like I was screaming out the report. And I'm sure my face was, like, bright red. But I could tell people could hear me. I don't think it was interesting. And I felt, like I said, deeply inadequate. Although we were all, like, 5, 6 years old in that classroom, a lot of the kids had chosen topics that were a lot more sophisticated than cats. Like, okay, so, like, the other kids are, like, reading their reports, and they're, like, on, like, Mother Teresa or, like, greenhouse gases, or, I mean, these were real geniuses, okay? And it was, I mean, some of them were talking about, like, the Holocaust and genocide and stuff, and I'm like, cats, you guys. So, that's the Mars and Gemini, like, it's these basic topics. So, anyway, that's how I learned to speak. And in that moment, I broke through some sort of personal pattern as a soul that had been with me, to bring it back to the point, like that had been with me for a while. Perhaps not my entire soul history, but recent lifetimes for sure. So that was my personal breakthrough. And it's not that I became super loquacious and started talking all the time after that. I didn't. But from that moment on, I'm getting chills, oh my gosh. Like, from that moment on, I knew if the moment should ever arise that I needed to speak in a way that I would need to be able to be heard, that I could do it. And that was like my own little secret. Like, I never talked to anyone about that. I never told my parents about that. I never talked to any of the other kids about how significant of a moment that was for me or anything. But I knew, prior to that moment, there was a feeling, I don't know if I can speak up to be heard, even if I need to. But from that moment on, I knew that I could. And so even now, I'm 30, so it's 25 years later, and yeah, I still realize that moment was a turning point, and it was one of many. So, the reason I'm sharing that is to say, so the YOD functions on that level, where it's personal breakthroughs for you as a soul. However, the purpose of it is impersonal as well. So there is a collective destiny. It's almost like the YOD is like a step forward in some sort of evolutionary process, both for the individual, the soul, but also for humanity in some way. And so I'm speaking about this from a moment where in many senses, I'm just getting started. So I've had a few different powerful communication moments throughout my life. But in terms of like the bigger reason why I'm here, or the bigger moment that is likely to be the evolutionary step forward for humanity. Oh my gosh, chills. Like, my very strong sense is that that moment has not occurred yet. And all the little moments of YOD activation that I've been put in are more so stepping stones to prepare for the destiny. And so the first thing that I wanted to just like make sure I communicate in this audio today is that. So when you first discover the YOD, there's like, oh my gosh, this big feeling, like, okay, I have this special destiny, this is so exciting, and you can look for, like, if you know a little bit about the transits, it's like, oh, I'm in a YOD transit, yay, like, and it can go a couple ways. So one, it can be like excitement, like, oh my gosh, yay, like, here's my moment of destiny, it's gonna come today, or whatever. Or it can be like this felt pressure, or both at the same time, like, like I feel this pressure to do this destiny, I don't know what it is, and stuff, and it can be like a lot of pressure. But what I want to say is that the YOD transits are stepping stones. So not every YOD transit will bring you a step closer to your destiny. But not every YOD transit is the moment of destiny. Okay? And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really important to understand that when you're in a YOD activation, or like you're having a YOD transit and your YOD is very activated at any given time, that whatever occurs in that moment is moving you closer to your destiny. But it's not always an external phenomenon. So sometimes it's like an internal realization that eventually will be used for your special purpose. Like, oh, you guys, I don't even know why, but I just keep getting so many chills. But like, okay, so sometimes it's an internal realization that will be used for your special purpose later on. When you are in the YOD activation, it's very unlikely that you will understand how what is occurring now is contributing to your special purpose. It might feel completely random. As a YOD-Bearer, it can sometimes feel, to me, like I almost have two different lives. And maybe some of you can relate. Because when I'm not under a YOD activation, I am a certain way. Like, I have a certain type of personality and stuff like that. And then when I am under a YOD activation, the circumstances of my life, my felt experience, my demeanor is different. So there's like the life under the influence of the YOD, and then there's my regular life. And it's really, I don't know how to say this, but it's really the life under the influence of the YOD, even though total, if you were to add up like all the times that my YOD is active, it might only account for, say, 10% of my life. That 10% is my life story. Like, that 10% is like when everything else has happened. But when I'm not in a YOD activation, my life feels a lot more normal or just mundane, or I don't feel like I'm here for a special purpose. I just feel like, okay, I'm doing the best I can to be like a kind, joyful human being and just enjoy the simple pleasures of life or whatever. But then like the YOD comes and it's just like, whatever I was doing in my life, whatever I was enjoying, whatever free will choices I was making, they don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. Like, eventually I'll go back to them, the hobbies, whatever. But in the moment of YOD activation, what matters is the YOD purpose. And it doesn't matter what you personally care about or are working towards or desire. It's like the YOD takes over, and the YOD says, there's two ways we can do this. Either you can go forth in this direction willingly, or your apex planet, that tip of the YOD, will drag you kicking and screaming in the direction of your destiny. Those are the two options. But the idea of you will not achieve your destiny is not really part of the equation. And I want people to understand that, because like, we can have issues with control when we're YOD-Bearers, and there can be this sense of, like, I've got to take control of the situation, and I need to make, this certain thing happen, and we can, like, really intellectualize the YOD experience and try to figure out what our special destiny is. My very strong sense is that that is not a worthwhile pursuit. Okay? I feel like this is something that is occurring on a much larger scale, and a big part of how this works and functions for this evolutionary step forward is that it involves a sort of spontaneity that means that even when we're in the moment of destiny for our YOD, we probably will not know that we're in the moment. But I really think that there's something here that transcends the mind, and we're not really going to understand what our destiny is. And so, for example, like, let's take, for example, someone famous who has the YOD. Okay? So, Princess Diana. Okay? Princess Diana, YOD formation. I don't want to argue with any astrologers, but all I want to say is that her YOD was activated at the moment of her death. I am guessing that it's the death itself that was the evolutionary step forward for humanity, because of all that came out surrounding her death, etc. All of the truth, all of the understandings, like, about the royal family, about, various levels of media, Secret Service, all these different things, okay? A lot has come from that. And most likely, Princess Diana felt a sense, we know that she felt a tremendous internal pressure. And some of you may know a lot of people know a lot about Princess Diana. I'm not an expert on her in any way, but I have studied a little about her life just because it's helpful for me to study the lives of people with YODs. But some of you will know she felt a tremendous inner pressure. She felt like, and this pressure manifested it for her in various ways, including as an eating disorder, etc. And so my guess is she felt like she had a special destiny, or there were certain things that she needed to do. But she probably didn't know that giving up her life was the destiny, most likely. But she probably just did her best in critical moments to act in the way that she felt was what she needed to do, guided by some higher part of herself. And eventually it led to her death. And so a lot of people would look at that and think, oh, she should have done this or whatever, this or that, and then maybe she'd still be alive. But I don't feel that's the case. I feel that the death itself was the destiny and everything that came from that. Okay, so anyway, I just want to say, I feel, to each their own, but I feel that it's futile to try to figure out what your particular YOD destiny is. I don't think that it's futile to try to figure out what skills are needed for the destiny or roughly what it might be about, okay? But to try to figure out specifically what it is, my sense is that for most people that's not the path, okay? Because if we knew, somehow we wouldn't be able to show up authentically in that moment, or it would skew things too much. Perhaps for some people, maybe they are meant to know and they'll receive that in a dream or something. But, like, if you have a YOD and you don't know what the destiny is, I would say that's pretty common. Like, to not know what the destiny is. One thing that I found really comforting during YOD transits is to study the qualities of the house and sign and planet that is, well, really any of them that are involved in the YODs, but especially the apex. So, again, the top point of the triangle. So, because that gives you an idea of what energy is going to be involved in the expression of your destiny. And the more that you know, at least the energy that you're trying to bring forward, the more confidence that you'll have. Even if you have no idea what the energy is, it'll still come out because there's the YOD is fundamentally about fate. And that's a very good thing in the big picture, because it means things are just going to happen. This is not an element of free will. This is not your North Node. Okay? I love the North Node, you guys. With all my heart and soul do I love the North Node. But listen, the North Node is about free will. So you can choose to embrace the energy of your North Node or not. The YOD is not about free will. The events of the YOD are fated, predestined events. They will happen regardless. You will not make them happen. It doesn't matter. Literally, it does not matter where you are, what your life circumstances are, how far away from your YOD path you are. When the YOD activation happens, it'll put you back on the path. Doesn't matter. Like, some of you may know that I had a YOD activation. Oh, Saturn YOD activation, Saturn conjunct Pluto. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. That was very tense inner experience and outer, and I went into a coma for 8 days, and with not in a hospital, just literally in an African village, and no food, no water, nothing, and survived, kind of. I didn't survive exactly because my identity was lost, but here I am. Okay? Pluto YOD, my friends. But anyway, my point is saying, so I was there. I was in this African village, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and yada, 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 yada. Well, my path more so involved being in the U.S. and being a psychic, and meeting a very important soul connection, and I was in a contract that required me to be in the Peace Corps and be there in this African village for another 1.5 years and all these things. And so fundamentally, there was actually nothing in that YOD activation, that I could have done to free myself from the situation that I was in. It doesn't, there wasn't, any real way. First of all, I had no idea what was going on. But, at the same time, there's no way that, through my own free will choices, that I could have made happen what was about to happen, and that I could have gotten myself, in contact with this very important soul connection who's now my husband, and that I could have gotten myself to the U.S. and all these different things that were about to happen. But the YOD made it happen. So first of all, I wouldn't have done that because I was very, very responsible, and I was the type of person where, if I had made an agreement to do something, I was going to carry it out. So there's no way I was going to walk away from that situation or whatever. But literally, my YOD activation came, and it just said, listen, your plans don't matter. Your life doesn't matter. What you're working on right now, it's interesting, but fundamentally there's a bigger purpose for you here, and you know what? Now's the time. Okay? That's what the YOD says. The YOD says, great, you're working on this, that, you have these friends, these relationships. That's cool. I mean, no disrespect, but destiny is calling. Someday I want to write a book called Destiny is Calling, and that'll be about the YODs, but right, not now. I need to learn more and understand more, but anyway, so my YOD was listen, we're going to try to figure out the most efficient way to get you on this path that you have. By the way, at the time, I didn't even really believe in psychics, or I was not woke to this spiritual intel. I mean, I was curious, of course, I always was, and this is a whole nother topic, but I had interactions with spirits for a good long time, since about 7 days old. Anyway, so I knew there was something, but that was not, I was not interested in pursuing it, okay? Especially as a career, I was doing the opposite. But, listen, the YOD was nope, time for you to get on your path. Cool, this time in Africa has been cool, but listen, it's over. So we're going to put you, if I'm thinking of Pluto's yep, okay, what's the most efficient way to do this? Let's just take you actually pretty much into a death. We'll just kind of temporarily kill you, and then we'll come back to life, and that should incite the changes that are necessary. And yeah. So basically, I just went offline. I just lost consciousness, and I regained consciousness briefly, lost consciousness again, came out of it, didn't know my name, didn't recognize my face, didn't know anything about who I was as a person or my life story, but I suddenly was aware of who I am as a soul, and I was really, really sick, and I got sent to the U.S. eventually. I was hospitalized in Africa, and then this occurred this time of year, 6 years ago. And so I got sent to the U.S., and I was put in care of one of the best hospitals, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, to try to figure out what had gone wrong. They could not figure it out. For 2 months, they tested every single day, could not figure it out. And so what happened? So I had no choice but to seek out spiritual understanding of what had gone on. And that led me to a spiritual event. And eventually, through these stepping stones, like over just like a short period of time, it led me to a whole bunch of spiritual information and people who would help me to realize like my own gifts. I mean, I knew that I had some sort of like spiritual gift. I mean, when you know that when you do, and we all do, like we all have intuition, but I had some woo-woo experiences that I had kept to myself for a very long time. But anyway, so my point is to say that it's a completely futile endeavor to try to make any sort of plan for your life if you have a YOD. I'm so sorry, like I'm so sorry to say that, because I feel like a horrible person saying that. I'm not saying don't have a vision for your life. Have a vision for your life and make loose plans for, what you would like to achieve. But if you hold on tight to those plans, it's going to be a very uncomfortable and bumpy ride for you. I had a life plan. I was in graduate school for my master's degree in international nonprofit management. I had the resume of a 50-year-old, and I was 20. And I had a plan, and I wanted to work for UNICEF, and I wanted to change the world, and helping with nonprofit organizations and, serving children in Africa and all this stuff. And it was pretty well made plan, and I had done everything necessary to succeed on that plan. And if I were a regular person without a YOD, I think that would have gone forth, and I would be doing that now. But my YOD said, that's great, Maya. That's a nice plan. But absolutely not. You're here for this other destiny, and it doesn't matter whether you believe, it doesn't matter whether you want to teach, speak and communicate about this esoteric wisdom and spirituality and help people to transform. It doesn't matter if you choose this, it chose you. And so life made it happen. And eventually I became so sick. I had always worked since I was 12. If you're interested in more about this, maybe you might like my life story series, that playlist on my channel. But yeah, I'd been working since I was 12. I knew about hard work, but I actually became so sick because, none of the doctors could figure out what happened. What happened to cause my coma and stuff. And so, of course, what happened was Pluto. But anyway, nobody could figure out specifically what was happening, and I was so sick like that. I had no energy, and I couldn't walk and stuff. And so eventually I spent a lot of money trying to heal myself. And eventually my only real option, because I didn't have the energy to go to work or anything. I couldn't even get up sometimes for the whole day. And so my only option was I was going to have to figure out a way to work for myself. I was going to have to figure out something I could contribute to the world, so that I could sustain myself and stuff in the months that followed this. And yeah, I knew, I wouldn't say I knew confidently, but there was a whispering. Maybe some of you YOD-Bearers can relate to the whispering. There was a whispering, within my being that was listen, listen, that little thing that's been happening, off and on throughout your whole life where you just know things and then they happen. or you've seen the spirits and they're talking to you and all this stuff. You know, that little thing that has been happening in quiet moments your entire life that you never speak about, that you don't understand. And you know what? That thing is now going to be your sustenance. That's like literally like your only option. Like, it's weird. So like life thrust me into this situation where it seemed like there was no way out. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sick. I can't do anything. I can't pursue my life plan. What am I going to do? And my doctors were giving me all this paperwork, like to go on disability. And they're like, we'll help you. You can be on disability for the rest of your life. And I was just like, what? No, I have goals, like I have dreams and all this stuff, and I just felt backed into a corner. But that's what the YOD does, and that's good, because that's what it was going to take for me to become a psychic, which was step one of this path. I do have a feeling it's only step one, but God bless everyone. That was step one, and it was not easy. But I only did it because I had no choice. So it was like, what am I going to do to sustain myself? I was seeing like my bank account balance go down and down and down. And I'm rather fiscally conservative person. And it got to the point where it was like, okay, I had like $1,000, $2,000 or something like that left. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like only like an emergency fund. Like I'm going to have to start making money for myself. I physically cannot actually work a job. I had a job at that time, of course. And I was in so much pain, and that I would like literally have to lay down on the floor in my office, and I would like cry under my desk. And I'm not really an emotional person, but I was just in excruciating pain. And I was like only working 20 hours at that point, and I felt like I was stealing from the organization that I was working for because I wasn't doing any work because I was in so much pain. I was like, I need something that I can do like at home in my bed in my pajamas. And I just knew at that time, I have to do this thing that I know I can do sometimes, that I feel like I have no control over, but that seems to happen, which that thing is sharing communications from the other side. Like I'm going to have to try to do this thing. I didn't know if it would work at all. I didn't expect it to work, and I was terrified. And I actually physically shook for an entire 2 weeks. Physically. Like I don't know if that was like the illness, you guys. Like, no, it wasn't. It was the moment of destiny. It was like, one of my like personal mantras that I sometimes consult within myself is like, there's a YouTuber I watch who says this all the time, and she always says, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so that was me. Like, I was feeling like the fear of like, oh my gosh, like everything about the identity I had built for myself and my plan for my life was the absolute antithesis of being a psychic reader as a profession. And so it was like, I cannot do this. And then it was like, this is literally my only option. So eventually I just was like, I have to do this. Like, this is like, I cannot, I remember like going into, going into my committee chair for my graduate thesis committee and my boss's office this one day. I'm sure I was in a YOD activation at that time, but I didn't know about the YODs yet. And I was like, I just had to tell them, like, I cannot accept anymore the funding that you're giving me. Because I was, like, fully funded as a grad student and given a prestigious internship. I was like, I can't. Like, I don't have the energy to do what you're paying me to do this teaching, to do this internship, to do this writing on this thesis. I don't even care anymore. I don't even remember what any of the information that I need to do this because I lost my memory and I feel a spiritual calling. And I remember my committee chair's name was Marcus. He's an amazing academic and more so amazing human being. And I was just like, Marcus, I feel a calling, like, to do spiritual work. And I had, like, before I did this, I was so afraid that, like, I sat in a bathroom stall and I just absolutely bawled for, like, 2 hours because it was, like, the death of my entire life that I had worked from that time that I was 5, at least I thought, all the way until then, to build this professional, career as an international development worker and leader and all this stuff. And I just felt like so many people had invested in me in that path to help me succeed, and I was just throwing it all away, but I literally couldn't do it. Like, I physically could not do it. I mean, to be able to do that, you have to be able to walk, stand, travel. Like, I couldn't do any of those things. And he was like, I support you. I know, I see this in you somehow. I'm not happy though, because, I really believed in the work that you're doing and the writing that you're doing and stuff, but no, you got to do this. You got to do this path. And I don't know, you guys. I think it was I took a week, and then I did my first reading, and my first reading, it wasn't my first reading I'd ever done, of course. In my own way, I've been reading for people my entire life, but never overtly. It was always a secret process. I just sort of say things and then see if they nodded or if it seemed true. But I would always say it kind of have you ever felt this, or whatever? But it's always in a really safe way. And so my first time doing an overt reading and being listen, this is going on with you, and that, I battled within myself the whole day. So I remember I had told the person I would do it at a specific day, and at that time, because I was so terrified, I was doing the readings as written reports, okay, because that was all I could handle at that time. And also, I am a trained writer, although my Pluto illness still has not been discovered what it actually is, and now currently I experience aphasia about 10 times per day, and I am not able to write or read. But you guys, I'm still able to speak and see spiritual visions, so God bless. Anyway, so I remember, I was okay, I woke up that morning, I'm just do it, this is ripping off a Band-Aid, what's the worst that's going to happen is you're going to fail, fine, you can go on a disability or whatever, I guess your life is over, but whatever. And so, yeah, I kept trying to start the reading and start, bringing the information through, and I couldn't do it. And I was just this is not good enough. What if it's wrong? And I just had so much fear. And then, eventually it got to the end of the day. It was 9:30 or 10 or something. And all day I'd been tuning into this person's energy and writing and then erasing and rewriting. And I mean, I had promised by the end of the day that I was going to do this. And so I just put on all this angel singing music and stuff. And I finally just did it. And at the time I was only charging $15. And so I was okay, well, worst case scenario, I'll just give a refund or whatever, but it's midnight, so I have to send this. So I sent that first reading. And honestly, I don't really think that it was very good, but it was acceptable. The person was oh, this is very fascinating and stuff, and thank you so much. And so it wasn't a horrible reaction. And so that was the first, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm just trying to illustrate the point, you guys, that if you're a YOD person, you don't have to know what your destiny is. You don't have to know that, consciously how the steps that you're taking are leading you towards your destiny. You just have to recognize when you're in a moment of destiny, and you just have to rise to the occasion. And my sense is that the best way to do that is to study the apex planet in your chart. Okay, there's so many ways to do it, of course. But one way to do it is to study the apex planet in your chart. So for me now, a lot of times when I'm in a moment of YOD activation, I still feel a little bit of that feeling of shaking. I don't physically shake for 2 weeks anymore like I did, but I still sometimes feel that, or just the tremendous uncertainty, or the feeling of there's such a feeling of inadequacy. It's this is such an important thing to do, and I felt that, I at the time, when I was being called to begin my work as a psychic, again, God bless, I still to this day, I don't like to speak about my work, and when I'm not doing it, I pretend that it doesn't exist. Okay, so basically, I don't walk around the world, some psychics are they'll like literally introduce themselves as like, hello, like I'm such and such and I'm a psychic and stuff, and they're just like, wear it proudly. Like, no, to me it's like my secret life, and I do the work, and when I do the work, I do the absolute best that I can, and I try to do it so powerfully, and then I try to forget. Like, I don't know how to describe it, you guys, but it's like, that's my YOD life, and then I live my other life when I'm not doing it. Okay? But anyway, so when I'm in the moment, like, of YOD activation now, because I've studied Pluto and Scorpio in the 3rd house and Mars and Gemini in the 10th house, and I'm kind of familiar. Those are two very different energies, but they are related in a way. There's a self-awareness now where I still feel the fear and the inadequacy to be able to rise to the occasion that life presents itself to me. And sometimes the occasion during the YOD transits are actual readings. So I'll be like in the midst of a YOD transit and I'll get like an impossible request for a psychic reading, or it'll be like the situation where I have to say to the person some sort of truth, and it'll be a rather strong message from Spirit what the truth actually is. But it'll be like a situation where I know what I'm going to say is going to absolutely devastate the individual. And I'll be able to feel in advance everything that they're going to feel when they hear the message. And yet I'll also know what will happen if I don't say the message, the direction of their life. Like, I'll just know so much. And I'll feel all of it. And I'll just... I still, like, brood, you know, like, not, like, sometimes it, like, no, like, I never do my readings anymore at, like, midnight, okay, like, it never goes that far anymore, but sometimes I'll still battle with myself, and I'll just be like, I don't think I can do this, like, I don't think, like, personally, like, I don't have what it takes to do this, like, work as a psychic, like, something about me is wrong, like, I don't have what it takes to do this, I don't know, like, because I'm not, like, I don't know how to describe it. Some psychics, they're able to just, like, say horrible things that are going to happen, and it's like they don't even care, you know, like you'll get a psychic reading or a tarot reading with some lady, some psychic or something, she'll be like, listen, like, your fiance is cheating on you, he's going to leave you, and like, she'll just say it like completely detached, like she doesn't care, like she, you know, I don't know, like, that's not me. Like, that's not, I mean, I think that's really cool, and like, they really don't care, and like, I know there are psychics like that, and then that psychic, they'll just, the next client comes in, they do the next reading, and then they go to bed that night and they sleep fine. That's not me. Like, I'm literally going to bed, like, after a reading like that. First of all, I'd never say it like that, but like, I literally, like, I'll be up all night, like, sending healing energy to the client or whatever. I feel so deeply, I care so deeply, I know, like, the significance of every soul's path. That's coming across in a way that I don't want it to, but like, what I'm saying is, like, I can feel into the significance of the importance of all these little things and the love and everything that just of all my clients, and I don't know, like, I'm just experiencing this work so differently, I think. I don't know, because I'm not sure how all the other psychics are, but that's my feeling, like, in terms of psychics that I've met personally and worked with. And anyway, so what I can say is that studying the apex planet of my YOD has helped me to speed up the process a little bit. So sometimes, like, it does happen to me, you guys, like a couple times a month, I'll still feel completely inadequate, and I'll battle myself about whether or not I can give the message to the client, like, and I'll just, like, sit in my psychic chair, like my reading chair and stuff, and I'll literally this is going to sound weird, but if you're a psychic, then you'll know, but like, I'll just be in conversation, like, with my guides or with Spirit, just be like, I can't say that, like, no, like, because they'll say, like, you need to tell them this, like, no, like, I won't, like, why do I have to do this? Like, can I issue, like, sometimes I have done this before, not my proudest moments, but like, how about, like, I'll try to, like, negotiate with them, like, how about I just issue, like, a full refund to this client, and then they can go to some other reader who's, like, got the skills more than I do. Not the psychic skills more, but just, like, the skills more so that are related to delivering the messages. And then I don't have to do this and stuff. And, like, my guides and stuff will be like, nope, Maya, you're going to do this. You, like, you know, you're just the messenger, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'll argue with them for, like, a long time, but it's gotten shorter. So I don't do it anymore for, like, 12 hours. A lot, like, it's gotten down to maybe, and this is not all the time, like I said, it's like just a couple times a month. Sometimes I'll go longer than that and I won't have any of these critical moments, and that's really great. But anyway, maybe it's like an hour or 2 hours now. And so eventually, hopefully, it'll be nothing. I think, but the point when it gets nothing, where I don't resist at all whatever's trying to move through me, then I'll be ready for my destiny. But you guys, I'm not there. I'm so sorry, but I'm not. Oh dear. Okay, so anyway, studying Pluto in Scorpio and Mars in Gemini, and understanding what that is and being able to almost like plug into those energies at will has really helped me. So now if I'm in a moment where I need to say something and deliver a message of powerful or transformative communication, although it could be, for example, quite scorpionic in nature, Pluto and Scorpio in the third, well, like now, I can at least almost like, there's almost like this need to like overcome your own self, like your human aspects sometimes, like in these, that's how it feels in the moments of YOD destiny. And so I'll just be like, okay, like right now, my job is to Pluto in Scorpio, and I don't want to do this, and I have all kinds of uncomfortable thoughts about people that do this, and this does not feel safe for me, and like every part of my being wants to just be like the checkout clerk at Target right now. I don't want to be a psychic anymore. Just let me just do a regular job or like whatever. And like, but I say no. Like sometimes I'll have to like sit, like I'll have to actually like sit and just for a second and like Google like Pluto and Scorpio or something like that and like watch a couple of minutes of a YouTube video on the energy and just be like, okay, right. No, like, right. Okay. Yes. I don't know why I agreed to do this, but like I agreed to Pluto and Scorpio in the third. Okay, like, oh my god, like, I'm just gonna have to do it. And that's usually me during, like, a YOD activation. Like, oh my god, like, nah, like, I'm just gonna have to do it. And, like, I feel so much resistance in my being. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it feels like I'm running from a bear or something like that. Like, I don't know, like, that's what it feels like. It's kind of exhilarating, but it's kind of like, my thought is always, like, how in the hell did I get into this situation? And, like, is just, like, I always want to just try to somehow just step away from the whole thing. Just, like, get out of it somehow. But you can't do that. Like, in a YOD activation, you just have to, like, move through whatever's there and realize, like, whatever is being presented to you, you have the capacity to do it. And knowing the energy of your YOD apex planets, it gives you the permission to do it. Because, for example, the Mars and Gemini in the 10th house energy, my other YOD, that's like a very, I hate to say this, but that, like, the frequency, it can kind of be like Donald Trump. Like, it's kind of like these, like, real quick, like, off-the-cuff communications out to the public, like, and in a real Gemini style, like, I'm just presenting an idea, you guys. I'm not saying it's true, but, like, here's a question for you guys to think about. And, like, it's very, like, yes, it's very that. So there's that Mars and Gemini energy. And if I didn't know what Mars and Gemini was about, I'm not sure I'd allow myself to do it. But knowing what the energy is and then, like, being conscious enough of, like, okay, right now there's a planet, you know, whatever it is, there's a planet at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. I'm having an activation of the Mars YOD. Do I want to say this, like, to the public? Like, do I want to put out this message? No, like, I don't. Like, I'd rather just be silent. Like, no, I don't want to do this. But listen, go forth, Mars and Gemini, do it. And my strategy, like, for the YOD stuff is just do it, show up, do it powerfully, whatever you're being asked to do. Now, I'm not saying you should approach it this way, but I'm just saying this is literally what I do. And then just forget. Like, just try to forget and pretend it never happened. And if nobody asks you or says anything about it, then perfect. Like, okay? So that's kind of what I do. And that's worked for me pretty well. Because usually, like, once the YOD activation is over, and like I said, a lot of them some are very long-lasting, like if it's from a slow-moving planet, like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, or Saturn. But if it's like a quick-moving planet, like Venus, or Mars, or the Moon, or something, so these YOD activations are only lasting like a couple days or a couple hours. Once they're over, there's usually things return back to calm for a while until the next YOD activation. And so anyway, I feel like I should end this. There's so many more things that I wanted to say, but I think I should make maybe like a series of these. maybe I'll say a few more things, but like that's kind of how the YODs are functioning, or like there's like these little moments. So, and like each YOD activation asks you to do something that either do something or realize something. Like I said, it can be an internal moment of importance, or it can be external moment of importance. And it goes back and forth in my experience. And in some sense, it may be related to whether the planet activating your YOD is retrograde, but it's not always that. It's just, it could go either way. So sometimes we think like a YOD activation is going to bring something external, and it really doesn't. It just brings like an internal phenomenon. If you're really, really committed to your development of yourself as a YOD bearer, then you might consider keeping like a YOD journal or something like that, and just like writing your thoughts during YOD activations. When you realize that you're having one, because then you can sort of see how the pieces are fitting together, but that still doesn't mean that you'll have any control over how they come together. You won't. Like, it'll just happen. And, yeah. Like I said, for me personally, I know that I've had some moments of YOD destiny, yes. But the larger moments, I feel that I'm nowhere near those moments, or the actual powerful communications that are going to move through me and things. And that's okay. But what you can realize is that when you're in a YOD activation, you'll probably feel the insecurity. You'll probably feel the restlessness. You'll probably feel the inadequacy, and you'll probably feel the tremendous power. You'll probably feel that you're chosen for a special purpose, and you'll probably feel afraid. And you'll probably feel all these different things, and probably for everyone else, it'll just be a completely regular day, and they're not feeling any of this. But you're feeling it, and I guess what I want people with YODs to realize is that that's what it is to have a YOD. So it feels like something is terribly wrong. And a lot of times, sometimes it can feel really exhilarating, like, and really good. I'm not saying that none of the YOD transits feel that way. Sometimes they do, and occasionally even, you guys, a YOD transit will pass and I won't even feel it. Okay? Sometimes, if it's a gentler activation. But usually, like, for example, if the moon goes on an activation point of my YOD in the middle of the night, it will, like, wake me up. And I've gotten to the point where after, like, 4 years of studying the YODs, like, where I know when, like, the moon activates my YOD, it'll wake me up in the middle of the night, and there's a certain feeling, it's like a certain tension, like, in the body mind, and I'll be like, this is the YOD energy, like, it's with me, and it's pointless to fight it, like, it's like, okay, I'm in a YOD moment, you know, what is, like, it doesn't matter that it's 3 a.m. right now. This is a YOD moment. Somehow my destiny is calling a little bit. What is it calling for? What realization is trying to move through me, or what action is trying to move through me? And occasionally I'll just, like, if it's the middle of the night, I'll just take some ashwagandha or some sort of, like, lemon balm or something like that to help me sleep and try to go back to sleep. But you guys, it never works. Like, so usually I'll get up just to confirm that it's a YOD activation, like pull up, like, the current position of the planets. And yeah, just accept that as much as this life is mine and belongs to me, a part of it isn't mine. You know, a part of it is that I'm a conduit for this, in a small way, this evolutionary energy that's wanting to be born into the planet. And whether I like it or not, whether I personally, as a person, a human being, like, am comfortable with this task and mission, is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, this is fated. The events are fated. What's going to unfold is going to unfold, as per Princess Diana and her death. What's going to unfold is going to unfold. And what I have control over, what you have control over, is how you respond to and relate to the experience of having the YOD and the moment. And sometimes you're not going to relate to it well, and sometimes you're going to kick and scream, and I'm there with you. But when you have those brief moments of, like, lucidity and consciousness as to what is taking place, then I guess just don't compare yourself to other people, and don't expect other people to really understand. But just within yourself, just take that deep breath and just know that there's something here that's more than you and your life and your personality. There's something here that's moving through you. And luckily, it's not up to you to make the destiny happen. Luckily, there's something more. There's something higher. And these events are going to unfold. And your job is to the best of your ability, when you feel that clarity about what you need to do. When you don't feel the clarity, don't do anything. Okay, I have a video about that, but like when you know what you need to do, no matter how much fear, no matter the repercussions, when you know that you're being called to do something in particular or say something in particular, or you know, it's just to show up with humility and do it. Like, that's all I can say is and you could, feel the fear and do it anyway. You could be shaking, you could be crying. There's this feeling with the YOD, it's like you have to overcome your humanity. Your higher part of your being has to take over in those moments. So in my own way, like with my readings, I practice that every day. And I'm aware that I'm just practicing this. And I don't know what's going to be. But I know someday, all these thousands of readings that I've done where I've gone into these altered states and I've brought through powerful communications for the soul, somehow this particular skill that I've developed is going to be needed. Not for me personally, but for the world. And I'm sending so much light into that, whatever that moment is, whenever it is, and so much strength, to my inner self to be able to rise to the occasion when that happens, to be able to just completely overcome my own insecurities as a human person and just rise. Because your YOD, yeah, it's a step forward for you as a soul, but it's really so much more than that. It's really not about you. And no matter how inadequate that you feel for the chosen mission, which is probably a mystery to you, no matter how inadequate that you feel, you have to understand that you are not inadequate, that your particular makeup as a soul is exactly what is needed for this particular mission, and that it's going forth. It's going forth. And you can't really control it. You can't really control the direction. You can try, but you can't really control it. But all you can do is just trust, and in those moments, just do your very best. Really do your very best to show up powerfully. And know that sometimes you're going to do something and it's going to seem like the results are really bad at first. Because that's usually how it is when you're shaking things up or you're asking to be a conduit of change. There's often ripples, there's often waves that come afterwards. But you'll know that you've done it. You'll know that you've done what you were meant to do, because after you do it, you'll feel the calm, the tremendous restlessness, the tremendous uncertainty, the tremendous insecurity, anxiety will go away. Because all that insecurity, that anxiety, all that was like the energies building, to help you to take that next step. And all the little steps, all the little YOD moments where things happen, people leave our lives, we feel compelled to study one particular thing, or we learn something, or we have this realization about ourselves or about the world or whatever. All of them are important, but just know that they're all building to something more. And I guess the final thing that I want to communicate in this is just the awareness that this is greater than you as an individual, and you can't really mess it up. That's a good thing. Sometimes our ego can resist that and be like, but what about me? What about my goals? What about my life? I need to make myself better, smarter, more beautiful, blah, 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 so I can do this destiny. No, you don't. This isn't about you. This is about fulfilling the special purpose. And you're an actor within the fruition of that purpose. And that's a very, 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 very good thing. And you will be pushed into the purpose. There's no way, say you could go through one YOD transit and be strongly compelled to do something in particular and choose not to do it. But during the next YOD transit, you're going to be pushed again, and eventually you'll do it. Like if you were to tell me a decade ago that I was going to be doing this psychic work and stuff, I would have laughed in your face. There's no way I would have done it. Okay, I don't know, but I'm just saying that eventually it got to the point where there was so much inner pressure, every other possibility was taken away from me. Because for whatever reason, a reason that I still do not know fully, this is extremely important. Me doing this work is extremely important. And that's how the YOD works. Whatever your special purpose is, life will take away, if necessary. Life is going to do whatever is necessary for you to realize your fate, okay? And when you're feeling really, 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 really uncomfortable, that discomfort itself is serving to help you move towards your destiny. Because eventually, you're going to do what's necessary to actually calm that anxiety or that, to mitigate the discomfort itself. And that thing that you do in whatever little way is going to be the step towards your destiny. Okay. So as a YOD-Bearer, it's really, there's skills and we're, from the time we're little babies, from the time we're little children, we are, even if we don't realize it, we are being prepared for our destiny, and we're learning to cope with these energies, and one of the biggest skills that we're learning is to be able to feel into when is the critical moment, to not to find our sense of timing. Okay. And I want to just say, don't be afraid of messing it up, because you're not going to mess it up in the most critical moment. We have so many, like I said, in a span of a month, you're going to have 10 YOD activations that are these little steps or practices for your destiny. So just do your best to try to feel into, is this the right moment for me to act, or to shift, or whatever, is this, and start to get that sense of timing, for when the universal energies are pushing you towards this little step in the evolution of your YOD destiny. And yeah, overcoming ourselves, practicing the skill of rising to the energy of our apex planet. These are the little things that we can do. But for the most part, that's about all that we can do. Okay? But if you're a YOD person, just know that, yes, you're human and flawed and all these things. But you're also walking a very sacred path. And everyone here on this planet is flawed and all these different things. But you were chosen for something more, to help bring about something more. You have what it takes, and it will happen. No matter how it feels, no matter how bleak your current circumstances feel, no matter how hopeless it seems, no matter how much it seems like you're backed in a corner, you're not. When the time's right, things will shift. You'll be moved towards your destiny, because ultimately it's fated and it's more important than anything that you have going on personally, okay? And life will bring you there. Life will bring you there. Life will bring you there. Sometimes the process of being brought there is going to feel really challenging. Just move through it. Just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. And with my Pluto YOD, I often have to remind myself that no matter how dark the night, the sun always rises again. And sometimes YOD activations can feel really dark. Luckily, thank God, the YOD activations don't last forever. Okay, some people have a stationary planet at the boomerang point of their YOD. So in that case, God bless you. But for most people, The YOD activations, they come and go. Just do your best. All you can do is your best. Just do your best and realize that it'll get better. You'll feel powerful again. You'll feel confident again. If you're feeling insecure, you'll have joy again. Like, just, I don't know, just allow things to unfold as they will. Okay? And like I said, there's so many other things that I wanted to say about YODs. I guess for me and my own YOD destiny, like I said, I need to speak more about YODs. So I guess I'll just do that. You guys, like, I don't know, like, when I get the call to do it, I guess I'll just do it, and maybe a whole bunch of videos will come out on YODs, I don't know. But if you're listening to this one, I hope somehow this has served you in some way, and I feel for you, and you've got this. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. So have a great day. Thank you for listening, and namaste.